time to start. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, everybody, and good evening to our beloved guests, as well as our admired audience. So today we have the pleasure to introduce, to have one of the monthly talks of the GSO, of Geological Society of Oman. And today the talk would be on the hydrology of the Aflaj system of Oman. This talk would be presented by our dear guest, Dr. Abdullah Al-Ghafri. So he's currently the professor of UNESCO chair on Aflaj studies and Archaeohydrology, and in the biological sciences and chemistry biology section. And Dr. Abdullah is the chairholder of the UNESCO chair of Aflaj studies in the University of Nizwa, and he received a PhD in environmental resources, water management, from the University of Hokkaido in 2004. Prior to that, he received a master's in agricultural water management from the University of Hokkaido, from the same university, in 2001, and prior to that, bachelor in agricultural mechanization from the University of Sultan Qaboos in 1991. And he has his admirable and appreciated efforts in Oman in terms of being one of the key figures in the subject of Aflaj system throughout research and publications, as well as field visits and other activities related to Aflaj system. Now, we would like to hand over to our beloved guest, and prior to that, we also have Amjad Al-Rawahi, representative of Ishraqa magazine, who will have an article published there on this talk and its content. And so now we would, as we hand over to our beloved guest, we would like to ask the audience to please have their mics muted and camera closed. So we will have the presentation, and after the end of the presentation, we will have a question and answer session where the audience and everyone here would be welcome to post any questions or comments or feedback. And thank you very much, and we would like to hand over to our guest, Dr. Abdullah.
Thank you, Mr. Al-Mathar, for this very nice introduction. Assalamu alaikum, dear guests. I have the chance today to talk about hydrology of the Aflaj. I am not a hydrologist. I'm maybe working in socio-hydrology. So my presentation will not be in pure hydrology, but explaining the system or the Aflaj system with some notes and comments and thoughts on hydrology, water management, and sustainability of Aflaj. All right, so I'm sorry for this because I think we stayed a long time before we started. Something happened in the sharing screen, but anyway, I was studying Aflaj since 1994, starting from my master and then PhD, and then after that, I went to the University of Nizwa, and we have courses, and we have now the Aflaj chair or UNESCO chair on Aflaj studies. First of all, I want to define what is the Aflaj system. Aflaj system, when we think about it, we need to think about the interaction between human sphere, technology or information, and nature. So all together will make the Aflaj system. If there is a failure in one of these systems, it will lead to a failure to the other system. So a healthy Aflaj should have all these three elements working together in balance. And why Aflaj is important for us in Oman and maybe in other countries. First of all, Aflaj as a hydraulical system or a water resource system, it provides water. And then it provides food as agricultural system and provide shelter. And also it is very successful ecosystem. You think about this system have been there in place for hundreds of years. There are many species get adapted or maybe evolved to live in the oasis. So keeping Aflaj is actually keeping environment. And then it have been in the past and partially now part of the Oman economical system or economical incomes. There have been a lot of export before, especially in the Yaruba time and the early Al Busaid dynasty, exporting dry dates and dry lemons and other products from the village. And of course, it is part of our heritage system. I mean here heritage both, the tangible heritage and non-tangible heritage as well. It is also become part of our culture, and you don't think how deep is our culture associated with Aflaj. Even it is coined many names and vocabulary in our Omani dialect. It came from the Aflaj system. And of course, it is part of our history. And now, because of all of this, it is a very valuable tourist resources. And now it's become part of the tourist activities in Oman. This is why I think Aflaj for us Omanis is our identity, and it's very important to sustain them. If we think about our initiators, they try to collect every drop of water and save it in this harsh, dry environment. We see here, this is one of the smallest village system in Oman. This one in Ain Qusra and Rustaq. I took this photo 2017 with Mr. Amjad. And you see here is the canal. It's very, very narrow. Even it is less than 1 centimeter wide. I mean, when you can see here a pen cannot even sink inside this canal. And this water is collected in a basin after here, and then after that is goes for irrigation. And because Aflaj is traditional system, and traditional system of agriculture is called geoponic, because we have other type of agriculture, as you know, as hydroponic, aeroponic, bioponic, etc., aquaponic. So geoponic, which means that is agriculture which depend on soil. So this is why the main two resources for Aflaj are water and soil. If we think about Aflaj and to sustain them for the future, we need not only to conserve water, but also we need to conserve soil. And thinking about the hydrology of Aflaj, we always need to think not only about water quality, but about water quantity, but also about water quality. Because as you know, water quality, if we have wrong water quality, it can deteriorate the soil, can increase, for example, salinity, or increase other element inside the soil and miss the balance. This system, in fact, the influence of the system is not only goes within the oasis, but the influence is extended beyond the border of the oasis. I mean, extended, for example, here, the Orang area here, that is where the Aflaj are concentrated. And we had migration before in the past between the coastal line and this area, the Aflaj. And this has happened every year in summer. People come from the coast and go to live within the oasis and stay in the oasis until September, when it's cooled down, and they go back to the coast. And the same thing, another migration has happened from the desert. So nomad people or Bedouin come from the desert and leave the desert in the end of May, when it's come hot, like this time, and then go and live within the oasis, and then go back to their to the desert in September. So now you can see the Aflaj is extended, or the system of Aflaj is extended to all Oman area, I can say. It's not only just within the oasis or the village. And even in the past. I mean, the influence of this Aflaj, without it, our sailors, as you know, that Oman is a sailing nation, and Omanis have been traveled in the past 1,000 years ago to the eastern coast of Asia and the eastern coast of Africa by monsoon, by ships. So how they can stay in the sea or in the ocean for months or weeks? That because they have a stable food made from Aflaj. So if we don't have a stable system here, or a constant, I can say, agriculture production system there, or reliable agriculture system there in Oman, they cannot have been do this activities. And the Aflaj, in fact, our institute, we can see now, talking back to the hydraulic system of the Aflaj, see how much effort our institutors did to conserve water and to keep water running. This example here of Aflaj Al-Ghafri in Ibri, and this is Aflaj Al-Ghafri. And this Aflaj is a Iddi Aflaj. That means it has a tunnel, and underground water have been running from the mother well is here of that Aflaj, is running in this direction. For some reason, this Aflaj have been collapsed and dried up. However, the agricultural land here for Aflaj Al-Ghafri is very fertile. So other Aflaj and other people from Aflaj Abu Shayateen in Idris, Wilayat Ibri, they thought to convey the water from Aflaj Abu Shayateen to Al-Ghafri. So what they did, in fact, they extended the water from Aflaj Abu Shayateen in Idris, so from Idris to Al-Ghafri, and with an open canal extended more than 10 kilometers. 10 kilometers, you see, from here until here. So think about at that time, more than 100 years ago, these people could convey water in an open canal from this village to this village. How did these people know that the water will flow from here to here? How did they measure the slope? How they could maintain the slope from this point to this point? I mean, now, of course, we can do it with the modern techniques, but see how these people in the past could move a water from another system after one system is collapsed. So this is one thing show that our institutors, they are very knowledgeable about hydrology and hydraulics. However, these systems are now under effect of urbanization, so we are losing this system one after another. So you see here this satellite image here of Ibra in 2002, the other one in the same town, Ibra, in 2013, and see how the housing invaded the Aflaj, and as you can see, all this area get dried up and agricultural land shrinked. So we don't know what will be the future of this village. This system is not exist only in Oman. I counted maybe about 50 countries around the world where they have or had similar systems. Just name it. You can see all, in fact, the continent have Aflaj. Even now, I knew now, I just did recorded that even Australia, they have some Aflaj system similar to the what we call it Ghaili Aflaj, and with the sharing water management. However, all these systems are given different names in different countries. Now, again, let's go back to hydrology. The basic thing to think about Aflaj hydrology is to think about the watershed. What you see here is one watershed. And you can see here, there are several Aflaj systems in this watershed. You can count here this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 within the same watershed. Now, we can raise several questions, and we need to do several studies in the future. What is the influence of this village on the other? What is the connection or the hydraulical connection between this system to other system? If this system pumped more water, how much will affect the other system downstream, and vice versa? Also, we can think about the water quality. If there is a pollution, for example, upstream, how far and how fast and how dangerous will transfer to other systems downstream. So anyway, this only thought that we need to think when we think about the Aflaj hydrology. The other thing also, we can think about how these Aflaj are feeding from the water aquifer in this watershed. So what is the correlation between the rainfall storage and the water pumping? I mean, from Aflaj. I mean, I'm just say pumping, but I mean the water flow out of Aflaj because it's coming from gravity. So the correlation of the flow of the Aflaj with the rainfall and the storage. See, for example, in that watershed, this village is very flourished. You can see very clearly. And this photo is by Google. It's taken in the same day. And see, the other village is almost dry. And what is the reason? So we need to think about all of these issues when we think about Aflaj hydrology. Other issue, as I said, is the transfer of pollution from upstream to downstream. Just here, I just simplified. I just made this drawing for two village system, for example. And these are Iddi Aflaj. As you know, we have three types of Aflaj: Iddi, Ghali, and Aini. Iddi, the type that bring water from the water aquifer by tunnels. And the Ghali is the village that bring water or collect water from the base flow of wadis. And Aini is the village which collect water from springs, from water springs. So here, for example, what will happen if we have, or this village system, for example, use, let's just say, pesticides or other chemicals? How far and how dangerous, as I said before, this will transfer to downstream village. And this kind of studies is needed. And if I get chance and finance and money, we want to do such studies in the UNESCO chair of Aflaj studies. So back again to the Omani oasis, as I said before, the village, it has, we can see it from different angles. It is not only we see the village, we should not see the village as a structure, but it is a successful environmental system. It is very successful also socio-economical system and engineering system, and also associated with culture. So the village, in fact, is the heart of the oasis and very connected with the oasis. So for me, the village is the oasis and the oasis is the village. You cannot separate them. And because without the village, there is no oasis. So all the system and all life and in that in the oasis is connected directly to the village system. So you can say here, the water system, engineering, social system, economics, and agriculture, all connected with each other. And if any failure, one of these systems will lead to a failure to the other system. So we need to think in comprehensive way, not only, for example, you are a hydrologist here, you should not think as a hydrologist. We need a socio-hydrologist. The social component and the institution is very important in Aflaj, and in fact, from my view, it is the main source of problems. So it is the key answer for resolving or solving most of the Aflaj problems. Here you see an aerial photo of village Al-Khatmain, and village Al-Khatmain is one of the Aflaj that are listed in the World Heritage List. And this is the thin line that is the village, and it's go and diverted in different direction. So it's connected, every square meters is connected with these veins inside the village. That is the water source, or the village water source. Unfortunately, we have in Oman 4,112 officially, according to the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, Wealth and Water Resources. But more than 1,000 Aflaj of them are dead. 31% of these Aflaj are Iddi or Dawoodi, 15 are Aini, and 54% are Ghali. And Ghali these are Aflaj tapping the water flow from shallow aquifer that I mentioned before, the base flow of wadis. And here now let's see and the hydrograph of the village, how it looks like. So just this is a general concept of the village hydrograph. So after rain, and if you measuring, if you come and measure the flow rate of a certain village, and then after a rain event, what you will see that the flow rate of the village will be raised very quickly. So here from A to B in this graph, and after the rain stop of certain time, then the water will drop, or the flow rate will drop first sharp, and then after that slowly from B to C, and then after C will be more steady and steady flow. So this, those who are studying electrical engineering or electricity, they know it looks like the EC circuit. So it's charging the capacitor and discharging a capacitor. In fact, charging here the water aquifer and discharging the water aquifer. Drawing a such graph for every village is very important, because this will give you many information. Example, the steepness and the sharpness, the height, the amplitude of this. This is showing you the characteristics of the aquifer itself, the size of the aquifer. Also, it will show you the type of soil, and the discharge is coming from that village. Of course, if the soil is clay or the land, I can say this is the hydraulic permeability of this land is very low. So that means you will not have a steep like this, a steep charging, but we'll have a slow charging, and then again very slow discharging. But if the permeability is very high, you have like sandy rocks or sandy soil and so on, or gravel, then you will have very steep charging and then very steep discharging. And other issue with the Aflaj hydrology, that unfortunately, the hydrograph of the village that you can see it here now in the pink, and this is an actual data I took for village Adris, Abu Shayatin from 2002 2003. I have reading, now I just summarized the reading of every month for 1 year between May 2002 to April 2003. And the green line here, that is the crop water requirement. What you can see here, that the crop water requirement, unfortunately, is not matching with the hydrograph of the village. So what does that mean? That means we need to do some adjustment. We need to do some work to make them matching by storing water, by modernizing the irrigation system, whatever the solution. But anyway, this is a problem. You can see here, this is something I call it the demand over, this is a demand. I mean, the demand is the crop water requirement and the supply is the hydrograph. So if you divide the demand over supply, will give you the efficiency of the village. And that should be within 60% to 100% for acceptable village efficiency. Here, another village here, and I drew the same graph, the hydrograph of the village and the crop water requirement, and you can see is completely not matching. And in this village, it's very clear that there is rain happened in August, and another rain event happened in March in this system. But this system has more water, for example, than what the plant needed. So, for example, we can store this water somewhere, or give it to another village, or sell it, whatever. Now back to the sustainability of the Aflaj. These systems are inherited for a long time, and why it was stable for a very long time? Because there is always adaptation. So this system always, through time, through history, is subject to human change or human interference, at the same time to environmental interference. That means change, and this is our negative change. However, people always trying to give solution and adapt to this change. So according to what is happened to their system, then they adapt. For example, talking about the human interference or human impact is such as, for example, migration to the village or out of the village, conflicts, water conflicts, wars, etc. Environmental impact, example, long drought, floods, sandstorm, etc. So people always have been adapted. But why now these systems are collapsing very fast and they are drying one by one? This because now two things. One, the human and environmental impact is much faster than before. At the same time, the adaptation also is much slower than before. So we need to adjust this. We need to reduce the impact of human and environmental impact on the system. At the same time, we need to increase the adaptation to have a stable system. So there are many key factors for the sustainability of the Aflaj in Oman. One of them is the continuous adaptation to social and environmental change through maintenance, water rush adjustment, and so on. Also, the collective management, because Aflaj is not managed by one person, but the whole community is sharing in the management of the Aflaj. Also, there is a water market in the Aflaj. The water is a commodity in the Aflaj system, and this commodity or this water is sold, can be rented also. So renting water right will bring some income to the Aflaj system, which use in maintenance, we'll see later. And also in Aflaj system, there is a gray water use, we'll see now. And that is the mean, the water management is very clever in Aflaj system, and we'll see details later on. And also recycling resources. And of course, the Aflaj depending on gravitational pull. There is no external source of energy to bring water from the water source to the water demand area. And also, people in Aflaj system, they know how to increase the land productivity by multi-cropping. You will see that also. And also, the peaceful coexistence between races and religions inside the system. This is the soil cohesion. And there are developed legal system and customs on water management, which help to sustain this system and protecting them. And also choosing date palm as the principal crop and flexible land use, a social solidarity. So for water utilization, before I'm going to explain that, we need just to understand there are 4 types of ownership in the Aflaj. There are people who are owning land and water, and there are a group of people who are owning land and renting water. Other group, they are owning water and renting land. And other group, they are renting both water and land. Especially when if you remember the first previous slide, I show you the migration between coastal areas, desert to the Aflaj system. Mainly they are from this group. So they are renting water and land. During that time, they are going to live there. And now here, seeing this model I did for the Aflaj system or the water use. And here you can learn from this model as follows. First, we have the domestic use become first before the agricultural use. And you can see also that the water is giving to be used or utilized on the right time with the right amount and quality. For example, they put drinking first, because of course drinking is most important with the high quality. Then after that, the water will go for mosques and fourth, then men bath, women bath, and for washing dishes. And now we have men bath, women bath, and washing. That means there's gray water. So then this gray water is not, lost. It's used for irrigating the agricultural land. So agriculture use is become after domestic use. But even the agricultural land is also arranged in very smart way. So we have the permanent crop first, and then the seasonal crop after. And the seasonal crop here, their land is flexible. So they can expand or shrink the land according to the availability of water in the Aflaj system. So it is a dynamic system, and this is very smart. So in dry area, in dry years, in dry times, they will shrink the seasonal crop because they are less important and they have less investment. But they keep date palm and trees. And when you have surplus of flow in wet years, they will extend the seasonal crops. This is why from the beginning I said it is so important to keep soil. Not only to think about the water and to conserve water, but also to conserve soil. Because if we work hard and save a lot of water, or maybe found a way to rise up the groundwater, we will come to the point that there is no soil to irrigate. So we need to put in mind always in a geoponic system such as a Aflaj, there are 2 important resources, soil and water. Here, example, to show you this flexibility of land use. So these springs, what we see them in these yellow circles, these are what's called awabi. And what is awabi? Awabi is a land that is prepared for agriculture to be on demand, depending on the availability of water. There is a water available, then we can irrigate this land. So we see here the agriculture, permanent agriculture is first. So when they have more water, they extend this land. You can see it's extended. So then it can be shrinked. However, now we can see the innovation of the urban area. And unfortunately, these awabi now are in many Aflaj systems have been converted to housing, and I hope this should be stopped. As I said before, people selected date palm as the major source or the major agriculture crop because due to all of these values on this crop. It is a perennial crop, it is salinity tolerant, it is drought tolerant, it can survive in wide range of climates. For example, it can have it in desert, in mountain, in coastal areas. It has high productivity. One date palm can produce more than 100 to 120 kilograms of dates a year. And then also it has wide range of utilization. So the product of this date palm is used as a food for human and for animals, as a shade, as animal feed, energy source, wood for construction, raw materials for furniture, etc. In fact, there's nothing in the past is thrown from this date palm. Everything on this date palm have been utilized. See here, for example, this is showing you product of date palm. This is a roof of a house in Harat Sibani in Farid al-Khatmain, and you can see this road are made of trunk of date palm, and these are made of leaves of the date palm. And talking about the gravitational pull, as I mentioned, the water goes in this Aflaj by gravity. And because of that, this system does not lead to over-exploit the water source and water supplies. So they are go in harmony with the availability of water in the water aquifers. And now, again, I mentioned the multi-cropping. Now there's a new science in agriculture or in ecological studies called permaculture. What is permaculture? Permaculture is planting different crops or trees which help each other. What you see here, we have banana. And as you know, banana is a tropical crop. We managed to have a banana, even you can see it says fruit, this banana, they are fruits. So we managed to have banana in the middle of the desert. How we could do that? This is because of the date palm. So under the date palm canopy here, we have microclimate that is mimic or very sweet for bananas. So it is like a semi-tropical or tropical climate. So the temperature, for example, here under the date palm canopy is much less than outside. The humidity is much higher than outside. The wind speed or winds, there's almost very reduced. So date palm is act like a wind barrier. Other thing also, there is a shade, so there's no sun, direct sunlight. So by this environment, now by this, micro ecosystem or a microclimate we have here, we could have bananas. But at the same time, now you see these people, they have like another 2 or maybe 3 crops. These crops, in fact, they are feeder, they are for animals. And these crops are selected carefully, crops that fixed nitrogen in the soil. So they will not exhaust nitrogen from the soil bank. So for example, such as sorghum, for example, sometimes alfalfa and other beans. And also the Aflaj are known as an organic farming in the past. And again, unfortunately now, these systems are not organic anymore, most of them. And people introduce pesticides, and that's very hazardous for the environment and for people. And unfortunately, this pesticide can stay in the soil for many years, and I don't know, maybe many decades. We need a study on that. So if we think about sustainability, also we need to think about bringing back the system as an organic farming. And this system sustained in the past because the agriculture part of the land produce soil, wood, and food for the village. And this goes back as a manure or soil and ash, again, from the village back to the agriculture. So what is the nutrient of the soil in the agricultural land? In fact, is circulated. You know, the soil, if you use agriculture intensively for long term, the nutrient will be exhausted, will be gone. So the soil will be poor of nutrient. However, this does not exist in Aflaj. Aflaj have been used for hundreds of years without adding artificial fertilizers in the past, but the agriculture was flourished because of this recycling of nutrients. And also, Aflaj is a common pool system, and one of the most important aspects of the sustainability is regarding the social aspect and the water division, which provide water and in very high equity between people, and they are manage the system or water very well. So it's a common pool resource with complex traditional management technique, and however these techniques proven that is correct, and it works for hundreds or even thousands of years, and we need to learn from them. And here now I'm talking about the economical system of the Aflaj, the cash flow. We have the water supply, we have the water utilization, and this generate money. So the money generated by selling agricultural product or the water market, and also donations. These revenues goes for village maintenance, wage for the management of the village, and even have a surplus sometimes of money in the past for charity. And in the Omani Aflaj, we have several water rights, and we can classify them here. One is the basic human needs right, and this basic need, human rights, that's mean any person from any part of the world, from any race, with any religion, can come anytime and take any amount of water as far this water is used for the basic human needs for free. For example, if he takes this water for drinking, for bathing, washing his clothes or washing his dishes, watering his animal, etc. And it is open to anyone, as I mentioned. Then the next water right in the Aflaj is called public water right, the government water right. And this is very rare, not in all Aflaj. It's found in big Aflaj, large system that government, they have some water right, and this goes as controlled by the Ministry of Al-Ghafri and Religious Affairs. There's also quasi-public or local community water rights. This water right is used by the whole community. It's not for individuals. So this is between the public and private water rights. Then, of course, there are private water rights, which are owned by individuals and their families. And in the village system, because we have rights, and these people are owning water and land from the village system, and you can see here in my drawing, I put sticks, and here triangles for females, sticks for male. So we don't have any gender issue. Both male or female can own water and land, or land in the village. So because these people, they have right from the village, they have also duties. Because now we have rights and duties, they are developed customs and regulations. In the past, these people memorized them in heart, but they are books written, and now they are governmental, even laws. This is again another aspect of sustainability of the Aflaj. One other thing of the aspect of the Aflaj, also I want you to know that we have in Aflaj something called the endowment, the waqf. So this waqf or endowment is made for village maintenance, for mosques, for schools. Even some of this waqf is very precise. They make it, for example, for buying pens for school or books, or for accommodating students, for orphans, raising orphans, for hospitality, for publication of books, for travelers and others. The interesting things here, the travelers waqf. This is recently research we are doing in Wadi al-Muawil, I mean, a group of researchers from the UNESCO chair of research, of studies, sorry. We found out there is still waqf existed in this village in Falag al-Wasat, in Wadi al-Ma'awil. And in Falag al-Wasat, what is happening here? The water is, it is let to be flow in the desert, in open canal, and there are some tanks. This water is owned by no one, so it can be used by anyone at any time. And this waqf, it is dedicated in the past for travelers, those people traveling from the coast going to the inland of Oman. And it was in fact very important to the link or connect the coastal land or the coastal societies with the internal societies of Oman. So this is very important. And it is for free. So people come and they can use this water for drinking, for their ablution, for prayers, or for bathing, for watering their animals, etc. And it still exists until now. From the water rights, they put 6% from the water shares just for travelers. So this is 6%. And you can see here, these are the pools still remain. And it is existing for a long time, I think more than 100 years ago, and have been renewed several times. And you can see now it's concrete. So until now, in Falag al-Wasat, they put the water here for travelers use. Other key of sustainability of Aflaj is the water rights are documented. You can see here, this is Falag al-Azizi. This is the Falag book of Falag al-Azizi in Jabal al-Akhbar. And in this Falag book, it is written there, you can see how much people are owning and all details of the ownership of different these water rights I mentioned before. And now back to the village as a physical system or engineering system. So we can divide the physical system of the village to 4 groups or 4 systems. One is the water collecting part, then water conveyance part, then water distribution part, then water utilization part. And then we have different structures in all of these, and they are coming one after each other, of course, with different names. And village also, other aspect of the village use in Oman and important in the past, it was the air conditioning. So the water in the village is used to heat up houses and structures in winter and cool down the air in these structures in summer. Because the water in Aflaj, it is cooler in summer and warmer in winter. Because it's coming from a deep aquifer. I can see now here in this graph, if you do an experiment and you take a measurement, this is a measurement done a soil surface, this is the up one, and then at 0.5 meter, and this one, and then at 10 meter. What you see here, that is, this is representing the air temperature, the soil surface. As you go deeper, you can see that is the heat flux in the soil is delayed and is coming less and less. And the fluctuation also of the temperature is also minimized. So for example, let's say now, this 0 day, let's say 1st January. And let's say here, for example, 1st June, in the middle of the year, or middle of June, let's say. So for example, here, let's say now summer. So the temperature outside, I mean, the air temperature will be like maybe 45 degrees. Or 40 degrees. But if you go deeper in soil, let's say 0.5 meter, it will be much less. If you go even more deeper, let's say 10 meter, much less. So usually the Aflaj, especially the Iddi type, the water is collected or it's seeped from depth of even more than 30 meters. Some Aflaj even have water depth of the mother well or the tunnel is more than 50 meters even. So that means you are expecting the variation is much higher. So that means in summer, the Falag water will be cooler. In winter, it will be warmer. Back to now again. Sorry, now I'll just talk about village maintenance. And in the past, the village have been maintained using traditional tools with these knowledgeable people. These people, in fact, they are very valuable. And unfortunately, we did not record the very valuable knowledge and technology these people have. And we brought companies and give them millions of riyals to maintain some of our Aflaj, and they killed them because they did not make the maintenance in the right way. So if I show you here this graph, simplifying the function of the tunnel in the Aflaj system. So the function of the tunnel in the Aflaj system, it is first part of it, the upstream one, is collecting water, and the downstream one of the tunnel is conveying water. The tunnel is doing both functions at the same time. This why should be designed like that. However, the length of the collection part and the conveyance part is variable, is dynamic according to the availability of water and the depth of the water table. So unfortunately, those companies, they think the source of water is point source in these tunnels. So they designed the tunnel, unfortunately, as a pipe. They thought it's just a drainage system with concrete. So in fact, they killed the Aflaj. Called in Oman, Manafa al-Falaj. So the right maintenance, the tunnel should be designed that from up and upper part should allow water to seep in, and lower part should be lined to prevent water to seep out. So it will collect and convey water at the same time. This is successful example of a system, of Falaj system that had been here in place from 400 years ago. This is from Sultan, so from Imam Saif bin Sultan, Qaid al-Ard al-Ya'rabi. And now the recent owner, this Falaj have been completely dried up. And now this man, he renovated his Falaj and he brought back the water. It has two sources before. One of the astonishing thing for me, you see this area, which is about 4 hectares, have been, I mean, this soil in 4 hectares, all is artificial soil, all brought by animals from somewhere here 400 years ago. And it leveled just like laser leveling. It's very amazing how this land is leveled. The owner of this land, this is a structure to bring water, which is still, I mean, exists now, 400 years ago. And this was a photo of the water tank of this. I took it in 2000 in Wadi bin Kharous, this Falaj Sana'a in Wadi bin Kharous, and you can see the farm. And now this happened, it's 2007, and now there is agriculture here. And see the leveling of this part. In fact, it's a very big terrace. And now see the Sana'a farmhouse looks like. Now there's agriculture. This is a successful example. This the photo now here in 2018. And see now what happened now. This is the water tank, and then you can see here agriculture field. So the area of this soil is not 4 hectares, 1.64 hectares. This is the total area. And the soil, I estimated the soil here. I mean, the volume of soil which brought here is about 79,100 square meters. See, 79,100 square meter of soil. And by weight is 138,425,000 kilograms of soil. The water tank, this one it can hold 295 meter cube of water. So now back, I mean, just to summarize the key for sustainability of Aflaj, we need to think always of having a legal reforms and clear law to protect this system, social cohesion, and we need to keep it. If it not exists in some system, we need to develop it. We need to think about the eco-sustainability of the Falaj. We need to help to keep this Falaj running. We need to have always ongoing incentives for the Falaj owners. We need to have a proper structure maintenance and hydro reliability. That means we need to keep the water running and to have the water on demand. And also we need to have continuous education and awareness and records of land and water rights. And here are summary of laws and regulations happened in Oman, and just from 1980. This is Royal Decree 1980, until 2006, and you can see there are many 2017 many laws to protecting national heritage. They are law for the regulation on Aflaj and wells, and they're also for protecting source of drinking water, for conservation of the environment, for handcraft regulation, for insurance of rule for agriculture. I mean, this is assurance rule of assurance for rules for agriculture, to how to use agricultural land, etc. And then regulation to protect the World Heritage Site Aflaj. And now this is this photo. I'm just telling you the sad story. See here, we are talking about hydrology a little bit. I talked today. This system here, and you can see here, this date palm here, they are dead because of over irrigations. I took this photo from 2001 of village Abu Shayateen. At that time, this village had too much flow that people didn't know how to drain water. So if we have a simple drainage system, that time we can save all of these date palms. So the flow rate in this Aflaj is very dynamic with time, and we need always to think in drought how to bring or to increase the water. And during wet years, we need to know how to drain water out. In the past, people already have drainage canals from agricultural land to outside, and then they know how to extend it to use it to another land, as I show you before, called Al-Awabi. And of course, we need education. And now myself, I'm now put a course in College of Art and Science in the College of Nizwa, started teaching that course in 2008. That is Aflaj, called BIOL 104. And then I started teaching another course, Aflaj for engineers, ENGN 111 in 2021, last year. And also now I designed course for master degree. If we have it, we need now waiting the approval of the Ministry of Higher Education, BIOL 550. I hope we can start teaching master in biology in fall 2022, where people or students can select Aflaj or their thesis. We did many Aflaj exhibition. For example, in 2015, we have a flag exhibition and permanent exhibition now in the University of Nizwa. And I did a lot of workshops for kids and radio programs. I had already now 3 radio programs, each program with 30 episodes, each episode with 30 minutes. Each episode with 15 to 30 minutes each. Here example, in a workshop I did for students, kids 8 to 9 years old. This was in the Oman National Museum. So in summary, Aflaj of Oman have a rich experience in securing water for communities for hundreds of years, where these systems contain many lessons to learn and adapt to recent water management practice. An interdisciplinary research is needed to adapt new food production techniques with Aflaj without harming the environment or the heritage. This is why we have now in the University of Nizwa practically started in September 2021. We have the UNESCO chair on Aflaj study. We divided this chair to 4 units, 4 sections, one on hydrogeology, and one on socio-hydrology, and one on ecology and agriculture, and one in heritage, culture, and history. You see, it is a multidisciplinary chair. Although Aflaj are integrated part of Oman heritage and an example of a core sustainable value in Oman past, they should be regarded as living, breathing community capable of producing locally grown food and playing a vital role in Oman food water security. They are Oman's only naturally occurring sustainable water supply and should be protected. Thank you for attention, and I managed to finish with time even before 2 minutes, and that's good, Mr. Al-Mu'thar, to have time for questions. So please, Mr. Al-Mu'thar, thank you very much, and now you can take the control and see if I have questions. We can sit with these people. Thank you very much for your listening and for your kind attention.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Abdullah. Indeed, we learned a lot throughout this hour and throughout this presentation, through insights from the Aflaj system. So I would like to address a few questions that we just received from our dear audience. So the first one from Altaf Habib, which is, how are they using gray water? Are they treating water before use? So I think in this one would be first of all the definition of gray water. Thank you.
Okay, the definition of gray water is the water which is slightly polluted, and polluted with organic pollutant, for example, not that much harmful for the environment or for people, or this pollutant can be recycled easy or integrated easily with the environment. So we call, for example, the water which has come out after people take a bath, of course, without using chemicals, taking a bath without using chemicals. So using organic method, because in the past they are not using now the shampoo and these things. No, they are using organic sabun or organic materials. So this is called gray water. So in the upper and upstream in the village, people will bath in the village, and they are washing themselves. They are may washing their dishes. They may washing their clothes with organic ingredients. So this is green water, but this green water goes straight to the agricultural land. So that's mean the agricultural land, it will treat it. And the phallic system itself, in fact, as I said, a successful ecosystem, it has a lot of microorganisms and also fish inside, which eat and digest and convert all these materials inside, or the pollution inside, or organic pollution inside the phallic system, to make it clear. This is just like a river. So we have like many species living there inside the village, many fish species, many insects, many worms, etc., many bacteria, and all of these will clean out the water again by itself. So the village cleaning itself, and it will do the same if we keep the village without introducing any chemicals. Any question? Another one?
Yes, thank you. And plus that, maybe when the village water is slightly has some bit suspended mud as a result of its recent addition due to the flow of the wadi, sometimes I think that would be included, right, in the
yes,
gray water. Yeah.
Yes, that's true, but that again is not harmful for the environment, because that clay, in fact, is it's good for the plants. It's add nutrient, in fact. In fact, they are circulating nutrients. It will add nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, etc. To the agricultural part.
Right, indeed. Thank you. And another question from Sabaya Al-Kad, which is there a specific time for each owner to use the village water? If yes, how is this time managed?
Yes, this is very complicated rotation there, and each village has its own rotation and its own system. The concept of water distribution in Aflaj of Oman is same. The concept is same, but the details are different from every village, even names and amount of time, etc. So, for example, let's say give a simple example. If the rotation is every 1 week, so X person will, for example, be given irrigation every Sunday. So in every Sunday, he will have, like, let's say 1 hour or 2 hours, of course, depending on his ownership. And then every Sunday he will have his irrigation. But even every Sunday, it will be shifted sometimes day and night. But anyway, he will give a certain time with very complicated system. But this system try to make equitability of water allocation between the owners. So every one person will have his rotation after a certain time and be repeated and repeated. So yes, every person have his quota of water by time. And that's smart, because we cannot divide or distribute water by volume. And the reason, of course, very clear, because there is a lot of water flow fluctuation. The flow rate is not constant, so you cannot count on volume. So another question. المؤثر, another question, please.
Yes, yes. So we have a comment that says thank you for the informative talk, and I would agree for being informative. Now another question. So in here, first of all, it says from Aisha Al-Hashmi. It says, first of all, the talk was valuable. Thanks a lot. Second thing, Dr. Abdullah mentioned in the beginning that the soil nature could be affected by the underground water. Could you please give an example to explain that point?
I didn't get the question, Mr. Martha.
So it says that the soil nature could be affected by the underground water. So the way
okay. Yes, yeah. I connected the water quality with soil. Yes.
Yes.
Example here in the Batna coast, for example, the overpumping or exploration of groundwater lead to the intrusion of the coastal water, or the water come from the sea, that saline water, mixed with the clean groundwater. So what happened after that? The farmers start to pump a saline water, and the soil in the past in Batna coast was very fertile and non-saline soil. After pumping a poor quality water, and due to the excessive heat we have in Oman, and the high rate of evaporation, the water will evaporate and the salt will remain in the soil, and then the concentration of the salt will increase on the soil by time. So now is end up with getting that very high rate of salination of the soil that we cannot even use it. And a lot of agricultural land have been banned. So this is what I mean. So if you are using a low quality groundwater, example saline or alkaline water, whatever, you will deteriorate your soil by the end. So that is the connection between both. Another question?
Yes, so we have a couple of thank yous and the comments, and then we have another question. So in here it says, thank you for a beautifully organized and illustrated talk. Please, could you tell us a little bit more about the pollution threats, nutrient levels, pesticides, salination? What are the major threats and how they differ between the types of Aflaj?
Yes, all our Aflaj now subject to pollution, and the source of pollution is different. One of them, the pollution that come from water. When you, from people, for example, using artificial now products and complicated chemicals, such as shampoos, lotions, soaps, even makeup, whatever, now it's come to the water. And other things also, when people washing their cars, then hydrocarbons may come from their cars, and heavy metals can be washed away from the car engine or the car body and goes to the water. And other things now, the source of pollution is come from the farmers themselves when they are using pesticides, and they need to select carefully the type of pesticide that has a lifespan very short. اللي هي فترة التحريم. So how long, for example, that some, I mean, they need to select the recommended pesticide by the Ministry of Agriculture, or if possible, try to use organic pesticides as possible. So some pesticides, unfortunately, some farmers, they do using, sometimes because they are ignorant about that, some of them because just they say they want a solution. They are using like the pesticide, which has very long lifespan, even more than 15 years or 20 years. For example, that is used, for example, for الأرضى اللي هي type of insect. I forget now is the name in English. اللي هي الرمة. The white ants.
Termites. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And termite, for example, that one, some people using pesticide used for usually for houses, and the life of that pesticide can stay for more than 15 to 20 years. And these pesticides are so dangerous, can cause cancer. And so, example, if this pesticide used on this on plant, it will go to the water and then to the soil, and can stay in the soil for 15 years. That means you are now poisoning your soil for 15 or 20 years. And if you are using this pesticide, it will be accumulated and accumulated. So this is why I'm saying, and this is another source of pollution. In general, the Ghaili village are more suspect or have more chance for pollution than the Iddi village. The Iddi village, because its tunnel is covered, but the Ghaili village mostly it is an open canal, and the water coming from a wadi, and this wadi the cars are moving on and up. And now another also threat for Aflaj are the tourists, and there are a lot of bad tourists, unfortunately, in Oman and maybe everywhere. But those people, they go and they enjoy the wadi, they enjoy the water, then they leave their product, what they bring, and their trashes, they just leave it in the wadi without collecting them and bringing them back home. And there are a lot of plastic, and then even sometimes there are other pollution which is even more dangerous than plastic. For example, batteries, and if they use medicine, and this batteries or other complicated chemicals can seep out to the village water, and eventually after that to the groundwater. So another question.
Yes, thank you for elaborating in this answer, and we have another. So we have also another. Thank you. Thank you, Thank you so much for the fantastic talks and great efforts. And another question: is every village tested for solution regularly? So I think they mean for material that has dissolved into the village water.
I didn't get this question. What is the question? I didn't get the question. I cannot hear you, Mr. Mu'tar.
Hello.
Yes, so it says is every village tested for solutions regularly? Yes, hello, Dr. Irina.
The question is if it's tested for pollution. Sorry.
Until now, I didn't get your question.
If the Falas is tested, if the Falas are tested.
Tested. Okay, so I think, unfortunately, yes and no, both. There are some few research and some even papers published about pollution in Aflaj. We can now find them in the internet, but it is not intensive. It is not enough. And unfortunately, there is no regular test or check of water quality, and this should be done by the Ministry of Agriculture or other authority in Oman, and it should be done regularly. I mean, at least let's say once a month, or if you cannot do it once a week, to take water samples and then test the water pollution in this system and monitor them. Or for a big system, an important system such as Felix Daris, Felix Khatmin, Felix Al-Miyassar, and etc., they may put the data loggers within this Felix system to test like some indicators of pollution. For example, the amount of dissolved oxygen, for example, the pH number, the EC of the system. So it can be like an alarm, and then there is something like they can monitor it. And this equipment are not expensive, but need one authority to start on that. So unfortunately, it's not intensive and not enough, the testing until now.
Yes, and the testing is quite limited, either for research purposes on a certain period, yes, and on limited samples.
Exactly.
Or else it should be on regular basis, whether for pollutants as well as hydrographs for the discharge rate for the villages,
exactly,
to see how they are declining? Is it the normal rate, or is there something going on with it? Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
And so there's another question from Alexander Kukes, hoping I pronounce it right.
Yes.
So it says, you mentioned the function of Aflaj as shelters. Could you explain how a village can be used as a shelter? Thank you.
First, thank you, Alexander from Germany. Now we have some people from Germany watching us. I'm very happy. Mr. Alexander, you should know that we have been in Morocco. So say shelter, first of thing, think about the date palm canopy. That's a shelter. People, as I said, they move to live in the oasis, so they live under this date palm to get the shade. Another example of shelter, they are taking the wood from these date palms, for example, the trunk, the leaves, and they make houses. I mean, we call them arish and gema orshan. So this arish, it was in fact the house of many people in the past, especially the temporary living that I said they are living, and it's very cool. And again, this is a shelter. And another type of shelter is your clothes. I mean, their clothes. These Aflaj in the past, they grow in them cotton, and then they grow as another plant called nail. And this nail is a type of a dye color. So the cotton is white, and then they use this dye to color that cotton, and then they fabricate clothes. So they have clothes from the village system. So again, when we are thinking about the village, remember, Mr. Alexander, this is very important. When you think about the village, don't think village is just a canals. Don't think the village is just a hydraulical system. It is a multi-system. It is a life system. That's why I draw in the beginning that it is a human system. It is an ecosystem. It is an agriculture system. It is our heritage, etc. So this is why when I say a village system, I does not mean just the canals or water. The water and canal is just one, or can say 5% of the complete picture of the village system.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Yes, go ahead. Mr. Alexander, any further thing to add?
No, thank you very much. That is very good.
Yeah, and if I may add, so that is indeed, as Dr. Abdullah elaborated on the products of agriculture and villages in shelter. If I may add another point that I've received from oral narration, which is the village canal itself. So there have been periods where the underground tunnels themselves, especially in large villages such as in Daris in Nizwa, where the tunnels were large enough to host people from a whole neighborhood, and they used that as a shelter during times of war and other times of difficulty.
Yes.
So that is another example of how villages could be used as a shelter.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we'd like to move on to, so there are other thank yous in the comments. And now another question. It says, regarding the water rights, some local community people would request visitors to visit some hot springs to leave the area at specific times, because they believe they have the right to use the water for daily uses. Any comment on that?
Again,
such as yeah.
I didn't get the question because of the sound, very sharp. I mean, had.
Okay.
The tune. I mean, can you just?
So it says, regarding the water rights, some local community people would request visitors to some hot springs to leave the area at specific times of the day, because they believe they have the right to use the water for their daily uses. So any comment on that?
Yes, they are water. They are because they are tourists, and the tourists, they don't have rights on that water. So in fact, this is their water. So, I mean, my comment is they have the full right on their water, and the tourists, they are not going there to take water for drinking. If they are doing like that, I don't think they be prevented. They are going there for sightseeing. So the local community, in fact, we should not disturb them. We should, they have the full right on their water at any time. They can't stop anyone, because this is especially some small water spring, they are private. And they have the full right to say, even to stop us from drinking, but they will not do, of course, because I said they are basic human right. So yes, I mean, they have the right to do that. I mean, and also the tourists, they have to be careful. Tourists, when they are going to the local community, they need to respect the culture, especially the culture of irrigation, the time of irrigation. When they are walking inside the canals, they need to go there and should not disturb anything in the system.
Yes, thank you. And so an example of that in the springs of Ghala, where they restricted the time for bathing and other uses up to a certain time at night. And it is their right to obtain that, to sustain the quantity and the quality of the water that they use. And we would like to move on to another question. In here, so I think it would be so it's the last question in the chat from user named Strike Master. It is so it says, how Aflaj fishes can survive during non-water periods when
Yes,
they are dry?
Yes, this is phenomena of this dry area fish that they can. There are two type of things. One of them, some of them, fish can survive in dry areas. They go in the mud, and then it's called aestivation. This phenomenon is called aestivation. It's happened in some fish in Africa. So this kind of fish can stay in dry area. They minimize their use of energy, and they keep themselves down under the soil or the sand. They are alive, but they're minimizing their activity, their biological activities, until the water come again. Water come again, then they can go out and then flourish again. They can even stay sometimes even more than 1 even to 4 years. Some of them, of these fish in Africa, can stay up to 4 years without water. And then after that, they can go out. And some other fish, the fish itself will die, but their egg can also survive and stay in the soil for a very long period until the water come back again. So this is why these fish, sometimes you get surprised, the fish is dried up completely, and then after the water come, you can see fish again.
Yes, thank you. And we see that also in some springs, that some temporary springs that flow only a few days after rainfall, after wadis, where they do have some of that fish. And one of the reasons may also be the fact that water, that groundwater is also stored within underground caverns within the mountains. And in those caverns, there is still some remaining water underground where those fishes and other organisms have the chance to reproduce. And okay, we would like to move on. So it's more of a comment, I think, related to the previous question on the hot springs. So it says like Al-Hammam hot spring in Al-Ansab. So I think perhaps for that one, so the people also use that water, and is remarkably known for being one of the I think the hottest spring in Oman, and people use it as a destination, and so as a tourist destination, and then the water would flow to be used. So I think it would also be one of the examples related to the previous question on people limiting that. So, and thank you very much. So we hopefully we received and addressed the questions in the chat box. So it's about time it's about time for the end. I just saw a final question, perhaps. So we would like to ask the organizers if there's time for this final question.
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. So last question. So it says, what do you think is the range of residence times in the aquifer?
What?
So the range of the time of residence of water in the aquifer.
I don't know now because it is depending from village to another one. It can be short and can be even more for years. We need to do isotopic test, but in Aflaj chair, until now we don't have this such study now, and we are lacking of until now we don't have hydrologists, and the University of Nizwa are going to appoint hydrologists with us. I hopefully by September, because we have 4 teams, and one team is hydrologist. So I hope when hydrologists appointed with us, we can do such studies. Myself, I am not a hydrologist from the beginning, so I don't have a precise answer on that.
And indeed, so the times with it, as Dr. Abdullah mentioned, that they differ from village to village, and typically differing according to the types, the major 3 types of villages in Oman.
Yes.
And also related to the aquifer, how large it is, and where it is, and how it is recharged, and the way. So the water flow, is it from nearby or from a distance, and also the discharge from other wells and other factors. So a few factors that would need more hydrogeological studies and insights.
Case by case. It's case by case.
Yes, case by case, indeed. So thank you very much. And we would like to thank our dear, first of all, thank Dr. Abdullah for his precious time, as well as, and for all the useful insight provided in this presentation overall, and we learned a lot indeed. And also would like to thank our dear audience for the questions, for their attendance and participation, whether here or later on, and their questions. So thank you very much, and inshallah we'd like to meet again in the next talk presented by GSO, by the Geological Society of Oman. Thank you very much, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Al-Mu'athar, and thanks to the Geological Society of Oman. And I think this record will be published after in the site of the Geological Society of Oman, and also in the website of the UNESCO Chair of Aflaj Studies. So we can refer to it, those who miss this presentation today. So, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.